There's a moment, so small you almost never notice it, where your future is already chosen. It happens before you speak, before you act, before you even believe you've made a decision. And yet, in that fraction of a second, the quantum field has already locked onto the timeline you're about to live. Neuroscientists like Benjamin Libet discovered this in groundbreaking experiments. When people were asked to make a simple choice, press a button with the left hand or the right, their brain's readiness potential fired milliseconds before they consciously decided. In other words, your body and subconscious had already committed to an action before your conscious mind caught up. Now imagine what that means in the quantum realm. If your brain fires early for something as small as pressing a button, what about the big, life-changing decisions? What about the moment you meet someone who will transform your life, or the instant you choose a path that will alter your destiny? Mystics have long said, the choice is made in the heart before the mind understands. Quantum theory takes this further, suggesting that all possible futures exist simultaneously in superposition, and your energy state pre-selects one before you even register the decision. This is not about fate, and it's not about losing free will. It's about understanding that your conscious self is only one layer of a much larger decision-making system, one that includes your subconscious programming, your vibrational frequency, and your entanglement with the quantum field. Most people go through life completely unaware of this pre-selection moment. They only wake up to a decision after it's been made, and by then they're already on the moving train of that chosen timeline. The problem: if your subconscious is full of old fears, limiting beliefs, and unresolved patterns, it will keep pre-selecting timelines that match those frequencies. You'll keep reliving the same loops, the same disappointments, thinking, "Why does this always happen to me?" without realizing you're simply matching the vibration you've carried for years. But here's the shift. The moment you become aware of this fraction of a second, this sliver of consciousness where the field is still fluid, you can learn to intercept it. To pause just long enough to redirect your energy toward a higher frequency choice. In physics, this is like observing a particle before it collapses, nudging it toward a desired outcome. In spirituality, it's what sages describe as moving from reaction to creation. It's the same principle. Awareness slows the autopilot, giving you access to the controls. Think of it like a wave about to break on the shore. Once the wave crashes, you can't change its direction. But in the moments before, with the right positioning, you can ride it exactly where you want to go. The pre-selection moment is your chance to position yourself. You won't always see it clearly at first. In fact, it will feel almost invisible. But with training, you'll start to notice the subtle signs. A shift in your body's tension, a fleeting image in your mind, a tiny inner yes or no that appears before thought. That's the door. And once you know it's there, you can step through it instead of letting it close without you. In this video, we're going to decode that process, not just from a mystical perspective, but grounded in both neuroscience and quantum physics. We'll explore why your brain's predictive coding tries to lock in familiar realities, how the quantum field responds to your first energetic impulse, and how to train yourself to become the conscious selector of your own timelines. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll know exactly how to catch that split-second window and use it to align with the future you actually want to live. When Libet's research shook the neuroscience community in the 1980s, it didn't just challenge the idea of free will, it exposed something much deeper about how reality unfolds. His experiments showed that the brain's motor cortex initiates action before conscious awareness, by a margin of up to 500 milliseconds. That might sound like a tiny gap, but in the quantum world, it's an eternity. This is because the quantum field responds instantly to energetic alignment, and your first, subconscious alignment happens before your logical mind can weigh pros and cons. This means that, in a way, reality begins responding to you before you officially decide. Now let's connect this to quantum manifestation. The field is not listening to your well-rehearsed affirmations or your carefully crafted vision boards as much as it's responding to your state. That deep, instantaneous vibration that flares up before you consciously choose a thought. This is why so many people struggle with manifestation despite doing everything right on paper. They're trying to override a pre-selection impulse with conscious effort, but the energy was already broadcast milliseconds earlier. Doctor, Joe Dispenza often describes this as the recording of the past playing on loop. Your subconscious is essentially a predictive engine, drawing from memory and past emotional experiences to decide what's safe and possible, and it makes those decisions faster than you can reason. In physics, you could compare this to decoherence. The moment a wave function collapses into a fixed outcome, the infinite possibilities narrow down to just one. Once that happens, your conscious mind tends to rationalize the choice, believing it was fully in control, when in fact it was mostly narrating after the fact. But here's where it gets interesting. Quantum mechanics doesn't demand that you stay in the first outcome your subconscious picks. There is still a window, a subtle, delicate one, where conscious observation can nudge the collapse toward a different result. This is why mindfulness, somatic awareness, and presence are not just spiritual fluff. They're tools for catching yourself in that pre-collapse moment. The more attuned you are to your body's signals, the flicker of a heartbeat, the sudden clench of your stomach, the micro-expression of excitement, the more you can intercept an old program and choose something new. And this is where quantum manifestation flips the common approach upside down. Instead of setting a goal and pushing toward it for months or years, you learn to recognize the micro moments where your future is being chosen and redirect them in real time. Imagine it like a GPS recalculating mid-route. You don't need to tear up the whole journey. You just need to catch the wrong turn before it locks you in. This is also why ignoring these micro moments keeps you stuck. Every time you miss them, you reinforce the same neural pathways and energetic imprints, making it more likely you'll default to them again. The subconscious loves familiarity. It prefers a known discomfort over an unknown potential. But the quantum field has no such bias. It's neutral. It will mirror back whatever you broadcast, whether it's an empowered impulse or a habitual one. The shift starts with awareness. You can't change what you don't notice. In the next section, we're going to break down exactly how to spot these pre-selection cues and, more importantly, how to ride them into the reality you want instead of the one you've been unconsciously repeating. And when you master this, manifestation stops feeling like an uphill climb and starts feeling like surfing a wave that's already moving in your favor. In quantum mechanics, there's a principle known as the observer effect, the idea that the act of observation changes the behavior of particles. But what most people don't realize is that the first observation isn't always conscious. Before your thinking mind decides to focus on a possibility, your subconscious is already observing, already collapsing certain wave functions into form. This means your choice is often a confirmation of what your deeper energy has already set in motion. Neuroscience has a parallel to this in what's called predictive coding. Your brain is not passively recording reality. It is actively predicting it, moment by moment, based on stored memories and emotional patterns. These predictions are essentially your internal future previews. They are the brain's way of saying, I know what's coming next. And in the process, it starts subtly steering you toward that expectation. Now here's the kicker. Those predictions are energetic broadcasts to the quantum field. Even before you say, I want this or I don't want that, the field is already receiving your frequency and matching it with a compatible reality. Think of it like this. If your subconscious expects rejection, it broadcasts rejection. If it expects abundance, it broadcasts abundance. The quantum field doesn't care whether the expectation was deliberate or accidental. It simply mirrors it. This is why manifestation often feels so elusive for people. They set conscious intentions that are in direct conflict with the subconscious pre-selection happening milliseconds earlier. In the lab, Benjamin Libet's famous experiments measured this gap between unconscious brain activity and conscious decision-making, and the evidence was undeniable. Our bodies know before we know. Physicist John Wheeler once said, "We are participators in bringing into being not only the near and here but the far away and long ago." This doesn't just apply on a cosmic scale, it applies to the micro moments in your own life. Each pre-selection moment is like a fork in the road, except the fork appears and vanishes in less than a second. If you're not tuned in, you'll miss it entirely. From a spiritual perspective, these micro moments are when your higher self whispers. It's the instant where intuition speaks before logic takes over. But most people are so used to living in mental noise that they override the whisper with old stories. It can't be that easy. I've always struggled with this. I need to figure out the steps. And just like that, the quantum opening closes. Training yourself to recognize preselection is like learning to hear a faint sound in a noisy room. At first, it's hard, but with practice, you start noticing the subtle cues, the quickening of your breath when a new possibility arises, the flicker of excitement before doubt kicks in, the sudden lightness in your chest before the mind starts listing all the reasons it won't work. These aren't random sensations. They are the body's way of flagging that the field just presented you with a probability, and you have the option to lock it in or let it fade. Here's the empowering part. Once you catch that micro window, you don't need to do much. You simply anchor into the desired feeling, even if it's just for a few seconds. That short burst of coherent energy is often enough to influence the collapse of the wave function toward your preferred reality. In quantum language, you're shifting the probability curve in your favor. In everyday language, you're saying yes before your old programming has time to say no. In the next section, we're going to move from science to strategy, breaking down a simple 3-step method you can use to align with these pre-selection moments and ride them straight into your chosen timeline. And the beauty of it? It works faster than traditional manifestation because you're no longer trying to change reality after the fact. You're aligning with it before the decision is even made. Now that you understand the science behind pre-selection, let's move into the application. Because knowing that these micro moments exist is only powerful if you can use them. The beauty of this process is that it's not about adding more rituals or more effort. It's about sharpening your awareness so you can make the smallest possible intervention at the exact right time. Step 1. Slow the mental noise. Pre-selection moments happen in silence, not in the silence of your environment, but in the quiet between your thoughts. If your mind is constantly running on high volume, you will miss them every single time. This is why mindfulness practices, even for a few minutes a day, are not optional extras in quantum manifestation. They are training your nervous system to notice micro shifts. The quieter the mind, the more clearly you'll sense the energetic nudge when the field presents a possibility. This could be a sudden idea, a small impulse to act, or just a deep feeling of rightness that appears before your logical mind catches up. Step 2. Lock in the first feeling. When a pre-selection moment appears, your body reacts before your mind does. Maybe your chest opens, your breath deepens, or a wave of excitement washes over you. That's the signature. Instead of rushing into thought about how it will happen, stay with that physical and emotional sensation. Anchor into it like you're memorizing it. In quantum physics terms, you're increasing coherence by holding the frequency steady long enough for the wave function to collapse in your favor. Most people lose this moment because they start doubting within seconds. Don't let your old programming cut the cord. Step 3. Commit with minimal action. Contrary to what most manifestation methods teach, you don't need to take massive, immediate action to prove your intention. What you need is aligned action, something small but decisive that signals, "I'm in." This could be sending a message, writing down the idea, booking a meeting, or even changing your body posture to reflect the version of you that already chose that outcome. These micro-actions are not about forcing the universe's hand. They're about showing yourself that you've locked into the frequency. Once the signal is sent, trust it. Here's the thing. You may only get a few of these pre-selection moments each day, and they may last less than a second. But if you start catching them consistently, your entire reality shifts, because you're no longer playing catch-up with the quantum field. You're moving in sync with it. That's why this process often feels faster and smoother than traditional manifestation techniques. It's not speed for speed's sake. It's efficiency born from alignment. Most people miss these openings because they're still operating from the belief that manifestation must be a long, uphill process. But once you've felt the shift, once you've experienced how light it can be, you'll never want to go back to chasing outcomes. The universe speaks first in whispers. If you ignore them, it has to shout. And shouting usually comes in the form of delays, detours, or dramatic wake-up calls. So here's what I want you to do right now. Declare your readiness to catch these moments. Type in the comments exactly as you see it here. locked in. This isn't just a comment. This is you practicing your first conscious preselection. By writing it, you're broadcasting to your own subconscious and to the quantum field that you're ready to notice and act in that tiny but powerful gap between possibility and decision. Hold that intention as we move forward, because in the next section, we're going even deeper into why these micro-decisions are actually the true source of your timeline, and how to stop slipping back into the old ones without even realizing it. Most people think change happens in the moment they take action. But in truth, by the time you move, speak, or decide, the quantum field has already locked in a version of reality that matches your dominant state of being. This is where the pre-selection window becomes your most powerful tool. In neuroscience, Benjamin Libet's famous experiments in the 1980s revealed something extraordinary. The brain shows activity toward making a decision milliseconds before you consciously choose. This means that your subconscious, and therefore your energetic frequency, has already started shaping the outcome before your rational mind catches up. In quantum physics, this mirrors what's called wave function collapse. Before you decide, infinite possibilities are in play, existing in superposition. But the moment your dominant vibration tips toward one, the wave collapses, and reality begins to solidify around that state. Here's the real breakthrough. If you become aware of that pre-selection micro window, you can catch the moment before the collapse. You can shift your state, your emotional baseline, your thought frequency, so the version of reality that locks in is the one you actually want. Think of it like catching the wind in a sail at just the right angle. You're not forcing the boat forward, you're simply adjusting to the perfect current before the wave takes you. Spiritually, mystics have spoken of this for centuries. Neville Goddard described it as the moment of assumption, when you inhabit the feeling of the wish fulfilled before anything has appeared in the physical world. The Bhagavad Gita calls it yoga of equanimity, the state of holding steady before acting. These teachings point to the same truth. Reality responds to who you are just before you step forward. Here's the trap that keeps most people stuck. They react inside that pre-selection window with fear, doubt, or limitation, and then wonder why their external world mirrors those feelings. Imagine this. You're about to speak up in a meeting to share an idea. For a split second, you feel confident, aligned, like your voice matters. But then a flicker of self-doubt hits. What if they don't take me seriously? In that moment, your frequency shifts, and the version of the outcome that locks in changes. Maybe you stumble on your words. Maybe someone interrupts. The collapse happened before you even spoke. Now imagine the opposite. You're about to walk into a room for an important conversation. You notice the flicker of fear, but instead of feeding it, you shift. Deep breath, shoulders back, a conscious remembrance. I am already the person who belongs here. That slight energetic adjustment before the decision locks in changes everything. Suddenly the room feels receptive. The conversation flows. You've stepped into the timeline where you succeed, not by chance, but by quantum alignment. The key here is not perfection, it's awareness. You will always have micro moments of doubt. The mastery is in catching them early enough to redirect the collapse. This is why practices like mindfulness, breathwork, and visualization are so effective. They train you to notice the subtle inner movements that happen in milliseconds, and to choose coherence over chaos. Here's the empowering part. The more you train your awareness in the pre-selection window, the more it becomes second nature. You start locking in realities of abundance, health, love, and opportunity before you even consciously decide to. And when that becomes your baseline, quantum manifestation stops being something you do and becomes something you are. So as you move through your day, don't just focus on big goals or dramatic decisions. Start paying attention to the small flickers, the half second before you speak, the breath before you reply to a message, the feeling right before you open an email. That's where reality is being chosen. And once you master that space, every moment becomes a quantum jump opportunity. If you've stayed with me until now, you already sense it. This isn't just theory. You've felt those micro moments in your own life, the quiet seconds before everything changes. Maybe it was before you sent a message that led to an unexpected opportunity. Maybe it was the moment you decided to walk away from something that no longer served you. In that subtle space, you weren't reacting, You were choosing. And in that choice, the quantum field responded instantly. This is the essence of quantum manifestation. Not chasing, not pushing, but aligning so deeply that reality has no choice but to match your state. You've seen how the science and the spiritual wisdom point to the same truth. The field is reading your frequency before your conscious mind even says yes. When you become fluent in that language, your life stops being a random sequence of events and becomes a deliberate, flowing creation. If you want to go beyond the surface and actually train this ability, to stabilize your vibration in the pre-selection window, to lock in timelines of abundance, love, and clarity before they even appear, then I created something that will take you deeper. It's called Awaken Your Quantum Power, and it's not just a book. It's a complete framework for rewiring the way you show up in those micro moments so that the quantum field only has one option: to deliver the reality you've already claimed internally. The link is in the pinned comment below. I recommend you get it today and start applying the principles as you move through your daily life. Because the truth is, you don't have to wait for change. You can collapse into it right now. And remember this: every second you are standing at the edge of infinite possibilities. The universe is watching, listening, and responding before you even speak. Step into those milliseconds with awareness, with intention, with the energy of the future you've already chosen. We'll meet again in the next video. Until then, keep your frequency steady, your awareness sharp,